Hey, 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 Lions of Liberty fans, this is Felony Friday, host John Odermatt. Before we jump into today's show, I got an awesome show lined up for you today. You're going to love it. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about a free market alternative to your standard government-run, government-manipulated, government-regulated medical insurance. Now, this is obviously the open enrollment period that a lot of people, if you have your corporate job, you're picking your health insurance, you're setting up your HSA for next year and all that stuff. Well, there's an alternative to that. And it's great for, if you have a regular corporate job, if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're a contract worker, something like that. It's a flexible option. It's called Health Excellence Plus. And Mark Claire of Lions of Liberty, the host of our Monday show, recently interviewed the co-founder of Health Excellence Plus. His name's Jeff Cantor. And in this interview, Jeff goes into detail and spells out exactly what it is, how it works. It's an awesome description of this free market alternative to this government healthcare. So you can check that out at lionsofliberty.com/health.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. And here on Lions of Liberty, we bring you 3 unique weekly shows every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We kick off every week on Monday with a show hosted by Mark Claire. It is our flagship program where Mark interviews leaders in the Liberty movement. On Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land. It's a comedic take on comedy culture coming at you from a libertarian angle. And on Friday, of course, Felony Friday, get all 3 of these shows by subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode of Felony Friday is one of the most popular formats where I bring on someone to share their story, their personal experience with injustice suffered in this broken criminal justice system. I will introduce my guest in just 1 minute. Before I do that, I want to let you know you can find the show notes page at lionsofliberty.com/FF204 because this is the 204th episode of Felony Friday, and we are going to get right to it right now. My guest today on Felony Friday is Chad Perry. When Chad was a minor, he was not convicted of a felony, but had a felony charge that was adjudicated, which I think is pretty common with minors. What ended up happening, though, is he ended up being charged with a felony later in life when he went to buy a gun. And on the gun application, because his crime was adjudicated, or his charge was adjudicated as a minor, it counted the same as a conviction in the state of Pennsylvania when buying a gun, which has given him all sorts of legal troubles we'll get into on this show. So, Chad, welcome to Felony Friday.
Hi, John. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. And I want to thank you for reaching out to me about your story. I honestly, I don't think we've had a story quite like this. So this will be a little bit of an education in how the legal system works for minors, especially in the state of Pennsylvania. But I would assume there's probably some overlap in states across the country here. So I think a good place to start out, man, is to go back. If we could start out with what happened when you were a minor to get you tied up in the criminal justice system.
When I was young, I had a lot of issues, anger problems, all that stuff. Got into doing some drugs and drinking, and one night I took some pills and drank a bunch of booze and got arrested, and I kicked the officer. Apparently, I don't really remember it because I was kind of blacked out. Woke up in a juvenile detention center, went through that whole thing. I remember, the only thing I remember about being in front of the judge was the judge telling me that this is not a conviction. You don't have to say you were convicted of a felony when you're filling out job applications when you get older. So I did like juvenile boot camp for like 3 months. And got out. I mean, I still had a couple issues after I turned 18, but like minor misdemeanors. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, so that happens. So you get in trouble. You're in your teens when that thing happens and it gets adjudicated.
Yeah, I was 17. It was the second time I'd been arrested. I got arrested when I was in school, like months earlier, for like marijuana, drug paraphernalia, or something like that, and got put on probation.
So the felony charge that was adjudicated, was that for kicking the police officer? Was that?
Yeah, it was aggravated assault on a police officer. And that's gonna stick with me forever.
Yeah. So fast forward to, were you were buying a gun or you were getting a concealed carry? Which was it?
It was 2015. So 4 years ago now. I was 15 years after, 17, 18 years after I'd gotten this charge. I was like 34 years old. And I've been working in some bad neighborhoods, and I was like, well, I haven't been in trouble in a long time. I've never been convicted of a felony. Let me go see if I'll pass a background check, because I thought the worst thing that would happen was that they would tell me no. And I went, filled out the application. The guy said he didn't pass the background check. And I was like, well, what do I do now? And he's like, I don't know, you just have to leave. And I'm like, okay. So I left. I thought about filing an appeal, but I was going through like child custody, so I didn't want to take on those legal bills when I already had legal bills that I was dealing with. And so I just let it go for the time being. I was like, well, I don't need a gun. I mean, it'd be nice to have one. It should be all right, but I wasn't too worried about it. And nothing happened for years. It took them 3.5 years to issue a warrant. And
So they issued a warrant just based upon when you filled out the form, you said you didn't have a felony, correct?
Right. Pennsylvania has their own application. The first page is similar to the federal form, but on the second page, there's a bunch of paragraphs and paragraphs of different things that I kind of went over, but I obviously missed the part that it said that if you were adjudicated as a minor for something that would prohibit you as an adult, then that still counts in the state of Pennsylvania. So I checked no, I was never convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor carrying whatever the 2+ years of maximum jail time. And, they take that as me lying to them, I suppose. But, so it took 3.5 years to issue a warrant. Apparently the police officer who had my file just had it sitting there for years, got a promotion. The person who got a promotion into his position had to go through his old case files, went through them all, and brought it to the DA and filed the charges. And so I had moved in this time, met my wife, had a daughter, and we're 3.5 years after I filled out this application and at the airport going to the Dominican Republic to get married. And Homeland Security comes up to me And it's like, asked for my passport. I show them the passport. They're like, "Yep, this is him." I'm like, what's going on, guys? They're like, "Well, have you been arrested recently?" I was like, "God, I haven't been arrested in like 15 years. I don't know what this could be about." And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's definitely you." So they had to take me back and had to wife and my 10-year-old daughter and my 1-year-old daughter at the terminal while all these people are standing around like, "Oh no, if he comes back, we're not getting on the plane with that." Like, okay. So, so I get arrested at the airport and brought to the police station, the state police barracks, and go in front of the judge and get bailed out. And luckily, I got to go the next day. Got to go back, get my go on vacation and get married.
So what did your wife and daughters do? Did they didn't go on the plane then, did they? Or
no, my.
All right, well, we'll talk to you later.
No, my mom would come and pick them up and took my daughters and sent my wife into the airport to go to the whatever Homeland Security office, I guess, to figure out where they took me. They, eventually told her that they were taking me to the state police barracks. So eventually they called my lawyer and found me. And luckily I had the trip insurance. And so I was able to reschedule the flight for the next day and get on the plane again. But yeah, it was interesting.
So why do you think? Why did they do it there? Do you have any idea why they didn't? How did they not track you down before that at your new address? I mean,
I know, because I had to get a passport too. I went through the whole passport process, and I mean, I changed my address legally through every way that you're supposed to, as far as I knew it. I thought. I guess they just didn't try that hard and just threw the warrant out there. And when you go through the airport, that I guess it got flagged.
So ultimately, what ended up happening with you on that charge?
Well, it was a felony. They wanted to give me a felony. My attorney almost got it thrown out in the preliminary because the police officer didn't have the second page of the application, which has that little paragraph on there that says that the adjudication counts. So a couple weeks later, the officer found the second page, and my attorney said that I could probably get it dismissed, but then they would just refile the charges. And if I waived the preliminary, that they would offer to drop it to a misdemeanor for a year of probation. And then when the arraignment time came, I didn't want to pay my attorney a few $1,000s again. So I said, well, they'll probably offer me this deal. So I just showed up, and they wanted to give me 2 to 4 years when I showed up. So
you're saying 2 to 4 years in prison?
In prison. They wanted me to plead guilty to this felony and give me 2 to 4 years in prison for filling out an application wrong. I really wanted to go to trial, and because it says, did you fill this out to the best of your knowledge, or I don't know exactly how it's worded, but I did. I didn't mean to lie. That's what the background check's for. You're going to fail it if you're not going to pass it. So so then I ended up getting it continued and went and paid my lawyer a few $1,000s, a few thousand more. And he got them to offer that deal again. Hopefully hopefully I'm still waiting on my background check I'm in construction and we do some work at the airport. So hopefully I pass this background check now.
Right.
Get my airport badge.
Yeah, it's so, just to go back to the beginning here. So it's so crazy that they have that law in the first place. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you have someone who's a juvenile who's getting in trouble. You make a mistake when you're 14, 15, 16, whatever. That's now held against you for your entire life. You don't have a right to defend yourself. I mean,
right.
Who thinks that's a good idea? Like,
my attorney told me about another guy who had gotten the same charge because when he was 8 or 9, his parents had him admitted to a mental institution, and he didn't even know about it. And they charged him with the same thing for, I'm not sure if it was a different question on there about the mental institution part, but he was, a grown man, had no idea where his parents. That's actually what they did when he was younger. He just knew that they went and saw some doctors,
right?
And he got the same charge, and they charged him with a felony like that. That's ridiculous. And if I didn't have an attorney or $4,000 to pay an attorney, I'm looking at years in prison, and it's just outrageous.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably people who don't have a few $1,000s to pay an attorney who are in prison for that reason. I mean,
right. I'm sure.
It's insanity. But my guest, Greg Hampikian, but he's an expert in genetics, but at the end of the interview, he had a really good insight just on the criminal justice system. And I think a lot of the time, we kind of look at this system and we get mad at prosecutors, we get mad at police officers, we get mad at judges. And that's okay. I mean, they're choosing to do those jobs. I mean, they're choosing to maybe do things that I don't think are really ethical or moral. But at the same time, I mean, the root problem is you got a broken system. I mean, you got a system that is built to deliver an outcome that's not just. I mean, it's happened to you twice, really.
Right.
So
their job is to put people in jail, and their job is to get convictions. They don't get promotions for helping somebody out. They get a promotion for getting somebody locked in a cage.
Absolutely.
And, it's just the whole, just how they're compensated for what they actually do. They're not there to serve and protect. They're there to get money from you and fill a jail cell.
Yeah.
Because they got to keep the jails full or the corrections officers won't have a job. And the prosecutors have to prosecute people, or what are they doing? And, yeah.
Well, it's like you said, you would have loved to have taken that to trial, but of course you're taking a huge risk there on the chance that you would get convicted. You'll be royally screwed, and you got to kind of weigh that against it. Risk reward, is it worth it? You probably I think you made the right call. But our system, if everybody took it to trial, the whole system would fold because there's not enough resources for all of these trials to actually occur. It would be, I mean, the system would just grind to a halt.
All right. Well, that's why they try to tack on as many charges as they can, so they have something to leverage against you. Mm-hmm. I got lucky that the felony was all I had because all the misdemeanors were past the statute of limitations because they waited so long to arrest me. But then I ended up pleading guilty to one of the misdemeanors that was past the statute of limitations because that was the plea deal.
Wait, so say that again. So you're saying the misdemeanors from
it was providing false statements.
Okay.
It's all basically the same thing, but they just, find as many charges as they can to charge you with.
Mm-hmm.
But the misdemeanors were past the statute of limitations. And I was sitting there with my attorney going over the plea deal, and they asked me, did anybody threaten you to, make this deal? And I was like, you mean threaten me with like locking me in a cage for 2 to 4 years? Like, oh no, anybody threaten you other than the government. They're the only ones that can threaten you.
Yeah, people that are pointing guns at me, saying that if I don't comply with this, then they're going to lock me in a cage. Yeah, a little bit of a threat. Yeah.
Yeah. And my actual charge is using my First Amendment to try to exercise my Second Amendment, and now we're worried about the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. Have you run across anybody who you've told this story to, and they sided with the courts or sided with the police?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean,
sometimes there's.
I know a lot of people who are very, very pro police, pro rule of law, all that nonsense, and they still think that this is ridiculous. I mean, how can you not think it's ridiculous? It's not. And I mean, if you really thought that I was any kind of threat, why would you wait 3.5 years? If you thought that there was any kind of threat of violence for me trying to acquire a gun, I mean, I failed the background check. It was like, okay, I guess I have some legal things I need to deal with before I can legally own a gun.
That's just proves how broken the system is. So if in fact you were a dangerous person, you had shown that you were trying to acquire a gun, you failed the background check. So if you were this dangerous person, which you're not, then wouldn't you go and maybe to the black market and get a gun? Or I mean, you would think there'd be a sense of urgency there, but
right. If you think of the threat in any way, then why would you wait so long to see what's going on?
Exactly. Well, it's craziness. I'm glad that I wish I could say it's behind you, but I guess you're still waiting on this could potentially affect your employment. I don't know. Has this caused any other problems in your life?
I mean, just the probation thing. It's annoying. I went through it when I was younger. It's not that big of a deal as long as you don't get arrested again, because then you're really screwed. Because that's when I was in my early 20s, late teens, and I got put on probation. I sat in county jail for months for getting in a car accident without a license. So they charged me with something. So I went to jail for 3 months because you can't get bail when you're on probation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little nervous, I mean, something happens, but I'm pushing forward. Hopefully I don't get arrested for anything dumb.
Hey, the average citizen commits 3 felonies a day, so gotta be careful.
Yeah, you just gotta, no police contact.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Chad, I just want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing this story. I would not be surprised if I get an email or a message from someone saying that either they know someone who's had something similar happen. It's crazy how many people are constrained by this criminal justice system who have really done nothing wrong and are not a threat to society in any way, but yet tangled up in it. So thanks for having the courage to come on here and share your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me, John.
I want to thank you guys for listening to my interview today with Chad Perry, and of course also want to thank Chad once again for coming on to the show and having the courage to share his story, his experience with the broken criminal justice system. Another crazy story, another hard to believe, really chain of events that's happening. It's crazy that we live in a country where things can be so incredibly disorganized that you can be served a warrant and nothing can happen except when you're trying to leave the country in order to be embarrassed in front of your family and all kinds of random strangers as you are unable to get through airport security. So just a crazy story. Insane that a mistake at such a young age that Chad made will prevent him from being able to own a firearm throughout his entire life, unable to defend himself on an equal playing field to people that could be trying to harm him or steal his property. That's the world we live in today, though. So, I don't really have a lot more to say. Just want to remind you guys, if you enjoy this show, if you enjoy Lions of Liberty, please consider supporting us, signing up for our Patreon as a supporter by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Anything from $5 and up per month, you get all of our bonus content. Different levels, you get different goodies, different access. So check that all out. Patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. And that's it, guys. Hopefully everyone had a happy Thanksgiving yesterday. Safe travels to everyone as they make their way back from seeing friends and family. And I'll see y'all next week. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.